we're talking about today.
So when the vice president said ICE agents have absolute immunity in violating people's civil rights, he was right.
Effectively, yes. Right now, as the law stands.
Okay, you might have seen that last clip that was in Congress yesterday, and this was an expert from the Cato Institute talking about accountability for federal officers. He was talking about other things too, but that's the question that was asked, was about immunity for federal officers and ICE agents in particular. And you might be a little bit shocked by what he said, because there's obviously nuances with what Vance said when he claimed that ICE agents have absolute immunity, which they don't have absolute immunity. But the point that that expert was trying to make is that because it is so hard to bring lawsuits against federal officials, they almost have, in essence, immunity, because these lawsuits are just so hard to bring. And you may be asking, well, why? Why are these lawsuits so hard to bring?
If local police or state police violate your civil rights, you have a cause of action against that. Is that correct?
Yeah, under Title 42, Section 1983, there's a private right of action against state and local, but not against the feds. And this is a critically important issue because right now they're recruiting all these state and local officers into essentially the ICE framework, which gives them immunity against all constitutional violations that they carry out.
So if you didn't know, Section 1983 was originally called the Ku Klux Klan Act because it was intended to target state officials who wouldn't give Black Americans rights that were guaranteed by the federal government. So the idea was that it allowed you to sue state officials if they weren't providing you your constitutional rights. So the problem is we don't have the inverse of that, or I guess what is now being called the converse of that. And so some states have passed state laws that are basically converse 1983 laws, and those are what advocates are trying to use now to hold these officials accountable. And that's going to be something that's going to have to come up through the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court is going to have to decide whether that is a solution that can be used. But there is a lot of case law and history for why these claims can't move forward. There was at one time this framework for suing federal officials, and it was based on this Supreme Court case known as Bivens. But since Bivens was decided, the Supreme Court has really cut down on what cases can be brought under Bivens. Most recently, they ruled on a case where they said that ICE officers couldn't be sued under Bivens claims because of national security reasons. So it is, I would say, incredibly hard. Some people will also say impossible to bring Bivens claims right now. So what they're talking about in that clip was basically having Congress create a Section 1983 for federal officers so that federal officers can be sued, because I'm sure a lot of people have heard about problems with bringing cases against police officers in regards to qualified immunity, but what we're talking about is just getting in the courthouse doors. But lucky for you, I have a full podcast episode that breaks down Section 1983, Converse 1983, Bivens, the FTCA, the Westfall Act, and we touch on qualified immunity a little bit at the end and what is being done to kind of overcome these obstacles to bring claims so that people who are hurt or killed by ICE officers can find some accountability. You can find it wherever you get any of your other podcasts, Apple, Spotify.